So an emergency crisis meeting is to be held today by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to discuss the worsening electricity power crisis facing the country. The meeting is expected to be attended by officials of the Volta River Authority, the Electricity Company of Ghana, the Ghana Grid Company Limited, and independent power providers, among others. The crisis meeting is being called following the near collapse of the electric power system in the country within the last 4 days. I spoke earlier with Samuel Kwesi Fletcher, who is head of communications, Volta River Authority, and William Boateng, head of communications with the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited. Watch this. Why haven't we been able to see the timetable run as it was given to us?
Yes, thank you. We are unable to adhere strictly to the timetable, basically because of the additional deficit that we've been asked to shed. And so if we are told that apart from what you have been given to shed, there is a challenge, and so shed an additional load, it means that customers that are already off and they are expecting to have light, they will not have the light. That is what is happening now.
When you say you were asked to, you were told of an additional challenge of extra deficit.
Yes, of generation challenge, yes.
What would be the figures you put to that one?
Figures, you are talking about figures. We used, to the best of my knowledge, we used 400 megawatts to draw the timetable. In the last few days, we are shedding something in the region of 500, 550. That additional 100 megawatts, 150 megawatts is fluctuating. Then it means that you are throwing off gear our timetable.
Okay, so that's where Sam comes in. What is causing this extra deficit?
Basically, we have our challenges already as far as the generation is concerned, but one has to understand that you work with machines. ECG was planning with a certain amount of load to shed, and they would have done that based on assurances that certain plants that are undergoing either repair works or maintenance work will come and give an additional megawatt. So if that doesn't happen, obviously because you're repairing an engine and then you find out that later that your alternator is also not working, if that doesn't happen, immediately it puts a lot more pressure on ECG because you're expecting an additional capacity which didn't come. It means that you have to take that load also off. So our challenges is that some of the machines we are expecting to come on stream didn't come on time. They are still doing some final corrections and testings. But also when gas supply from Nigeria is at a certain level that you believe you can plan with it, and then the next day you realize that it's been cut so low that you cannot do anything with it. It affects our operations.
Which additional plants are you talking about?
We have plants in Abuazi especially. As I speak to you, we're losing about 400 megawatts from Abuazi, which we need. I mean, if that 400 megawatt came today, ECG would probably be shedding just about 150. You understand my point? And the good news is that they are finished doing all the work on these machines, but once you finish doing that, you also have to take them through the proper testing period before you eventually synchronize and bring electricity.
When are we expecting it to come alive?
The when question is always, well, some of these testings take a few days. So I'm not going to say that it will take months. It's just a few days. I probably won't be able to say exactly because I haven't spoken to the ground yet. But I know that it will take a couple of days to be able to do that.
But William, your consumers are looking up to you to get what they are paying for, but they are not getting. You cannot just blame your power producer for not giving you enough. I'm paying for the electricity. I want it. Couldn't there have been alternatives for us as consumers?
Not really. We understand as customers. We understand we have a contract. They expect us to give them stable, reliable power supply. We are unable to do so. That's why we continue to plead with them to continue to exercise that patience with us, and that plans are far ahead. We believe that this particular erratic situation in the last few days. This particular erratic situation in the last few days, we hope that our generation companies will definitely resolve it, then we'll revert back to the timetable.
Were you able to communicate this with consumers as far as not being able to go by the timetable is concerned?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. You know, yes, because yes, we are here giving us opportunity to explain what is happening. We have been in other platforms, yes. But you see, there's this information fatigue when virtually every morning I come on air to come and tell you I'm sharing additional load, so you are going off the next day. It's the same old story. It becomes information fatigue. What's most important is to take your time. If it is transient, what we are going through now is transient. It means that in a few days, we are going to revert to the timetable, and then we'll
But this situation does not look like that.
No, we are here to what, as I speak with you, the way forward is that we have a revised timetable ready now, which is going to take care of the trend, because we've gone up now. So we are going to use the maximum load now instead of what we have, or with the 400. Now I want to use something in the region of 500, 550. What it means that customers will go off 24 hours, half hour 24 hours. That we can adhere to. But it is still premature. It is ready with us now. We will have to consult the
You go for a whole 24 hours?
Yes, and come on 24. That is when we can continue, or we can adhere to the timetable because of what you are talking now. But we are going to consult with our other stakeholders, like the generation companies, then the regulator. We have to talk to the Ministry of Energy. And then when we come to an understanding that, okay, then why don't we change? Then if we meet and then there's an assurance that this is going to take some few days, then I don't think there's the need for us to
what has changed positively when it comes to power generation?
Well, when you have taken out plants to do work on them, you have taken away capacity. You don't have a reserve margin to replace that capacity with. So immediately you have created a deficit, a hole that must be plugged. That hole, until you plug that deficit, ECG will have to take off some load to keep the system balanced. And so what will be positive is to know that the plants that you took out are coming back in service. So that's the positive thing I'm telling you about today. I think that, Kemini, and this platform is a good one, we all need to understand and also impress it upon people. The situation is quite frustrating. I mean, when your light goes off, it's not a palatable thing at all. But let's not paint the picture that it's a hopeless situation. It's not.
Is it?
It's not. It's not a hopeless situation. We will get out pretty soon, and every other project that we are working on is working towards building a reserve margin for the country's system. Every properly functioning system should have a reserve margin of not less than 20% on top of your peak load. We don't have that as a country, and you need to look at that as a country. We don't have that as a country, and that is what all the projects we are doing are coming.
So, Samia, let me understand this. We were not getting the gas, and we were using crude, but we had some of our machines go off, some of our plants go off, and so still we couldn't produce anyway.
No.
Or which is the problem? We didn't have enough money to buy the crude.
No, these machines have already been out on planned maintenance. Okay, one of them was actually a repair work because it had a compressor broken, and that takes some time. That's actually taken over 6 months to fix it. I mean, we were lucky we had that part, in stock, because if we didn't have that part, it probably would take us more than a year, because now you have to order from outside the country. That takes a long time. But we were lucky to have that part in stock. So it has taken us over 6 months. They've done the work, they're doing the testing. So it's either a repair work or a planned maintenance work. Usually if it's just an inspection, it takes a shorter time. But if it's something you need to take certain things out, and just as you take your car for maintenance every 3 months or 6 months or so, it's the same thing. But you need to do that, because if you don't do that, you're shortening the lifespan of the machine. So you need to be able to do that. In fact, if you use crude oil, you need to do that after every 6,000 hours. You need to do that inspection. If you use gas, you need to do that after every 12,000 hours of operation. So depending on what kind of fuel you're using, you have to be able to follow those maintenance regimes. But the way it works is that if you had a plant on standby, you can go ahead and do your maintenance without anybody's light going off. That is the reserve we are talking about. We don't have those plants on standby. And so anytime you have to go and do maintenance, you have to resort to load shedding as your reserve.
Is our problem now just maintenance and not fuel?
No, right now, the other factor is gas from Nigeria. Now, today, if we were getting gas from Ghana Gas, I guess we wouldn't be saying that we don't have control over our gas situation. But if the gas is coming from Nigeria and they give you 150 today, and tomorrow they gave you 30, really, what can you do? It's not coming from you. You have no control over it. They can always have an excuse for you that this and that are the reasons why we are not able to give you the gas. So sort yourself out. Find a way, okay? And that is why we at VRA have done gas sales agreements with other smaller private companies that produce gas and that can supply us additional gas. Even when Ghana Gas comes, we will still need that gas to be able to produce, more efficiently and also make electricity more affordable. Light crude oil, as good as it is for us today, light crude oil is not the best way to run thermal plants. One, it's expensive, but it's also a heavy fuel. And so they put a lot of stress on the machines.
So what you're saying is, even if we had all of the crude oil we need or all of the gas we need, we still have some maintenance works to do.
No, as for maintenance work, it's part of a machine's life.
I mean, with the situation right now, we still had maintenance works to do. That's why we had to shed some.
No, we haven't had problems with light crude oil at all. We have it. We have stock. What I'm saying is that if you have stock and you're working on your machine, your light crude oil, you can't use it. The machine is not available.
It is the plants that is not
available. What I'm saying.
available.
The plants have not been available.
I was just trying to paraphrase all that you've been saying so the viewer understands where you're coming from. My question to the ECG, if your supplier is not able to supply you the product for which you have paid for, and you tell the consumer that there's nothing really you can do about it unless you wait on the supplier. For the consumer, it's more or less you're taking that person for granted, especially when you come back and ask for more.
Not exactly. I don't think so.
The point you are making
what you are saying
is it?
we are in an industry. It's an industry. You are industry, and it's a chain value industry. So somebody by law, by mandate, by what have you, somebody must produce. So we have producers or generate companies, and they will generate the power. Somebody will transmit, and it's a system controller, GridCo, or the aggregator. They will give the power to us. So it's a whole chain value. So you cannot come and hold me personal responsibility. So long as you have had a contract with me, I should go and tell.
But you collect my money.
Yes, I agree. That's what I said. I'm the interface. So I accept the responsibility that you have to come and see me.
But I think he also has he should have the opportunity to be able to explain why.
That's why I'm saying that this is the situation we are in. I'm not in the business of generating power.
But that's not enough.
Yes, so
if you just tell me that you're not in the position to generate power, it's not enough because I pay my money to you.
Yes,
you can ask for more, and I keep paying.
And I'm explaining.
So
you should tell me something beyond. I am not a power generator.
No, I didn't say that. I said that we are in the system together. It's a value chain system. So we are an industry, a one system, a body. I am the interface, and so definitely you know me, and that is why I agree that you come and tell me what is going on. I tell you what is going on in the system, and that's why I'm explaining our situation. And we are still pleading with customers to continue to bear with us whilst my generating companies work around the clock.
But we're getting gas from Nigeria now.
Well, today what we have is about just a little under 50 million. That's not enough. We have about 49.73. That actually goes to power Asogli and probably one small gas turbine in Tema, and that's it. The rest will have to run on light crude oil.
What does it add on to the grid?
Well, it depends. For example, if Asogli generates, if Asogli gets enough gas to generate, they give us about 180 megawatts, and that's huge, significant.
This situation with Nigeria not getting enough of the gas from there, what can the VRA do about it?
It's an interesting discussion. I mean, others have argued that we get out of the agreement completely. Personally, and that's my personal position, I have always argued against that assertion that we should get out of the agreement. I mean, if they're supposed to give us 120, they are not able to do that and they give us about 80. Question, is that 80 useful to you? Yes, it is. Because you don't have any source of gas right now. So are you going to say that because you couldn't give me 120, take your 80, when you know you need the 80? So I think that for the time being, we should stay in that agreement for some time. But really, what we can do about that, there are times you have had to invoke, some of the terms in the agreement. Those terms are not punitive enough. I mean, if you say that, okay, if you default, pay so much, and the money is so little that they can easily default and pay that money to you, that doesn't serve the purpose. What I think we should do is to continue to build a good relationship with them, is continue to negotiate, dialogue. I mean, that's the way to go. I mean, you just can't say, you bet to me do not in people.
I have heard
that thing, sorry, I had to speak.
No, it's fine. I have heard from reliable sources that Ghana could actually take this matter to the ECOWAS to intervene.
What will happen is that they'll say, okay, if you don't like it, let's abrogate the contract. What happens? You don't get the gas. And they don't lose anything. They'll get somebody to buy the gas.
Is it that if we lost that contract with Nigeria, we couldn't get gas from anywhere else?
From where? I mean, you see, before you can go to Angola and say, I want to buy gas. Do you know what you have to do? You have to dig a pipeline from Ghana to Angola.
No, but
that investment.
This is a West African power pool. It's a whole project. With a lot of money. We invested a lot of money. We have the pipeline.
And the question the consumer has been asking is, was it worth it?
No, what you need to understand is that the gas pipeline is separate from gas from Nigeria. The gas pipeline is just the infrastructure that carries or that transports the gas. That's a company on its own. Ghana, through VRA, owns 16% of that infrastructure. So Ghana is a shareholder in the gas pipeline. And then VRA becomes the biggest off-taker of the content of that pipeline. Okay, so the agreements with Nigeria Gas is separate from agreements with the gas pipeline company. They are two separate things. In fact, we are a shareholder of the gas pipeline company itself.
Also, you abrogate the contract. Now, you leave the gas pipeline, fine. What are you going to do with it?
You have already invested.
Because only Nigeria that can give you gas on the West Coast.
But you're not getting what you need. Even if Atuabo comes on, we still need gas anyway.
Yes, so I'm saying that you are actually not disagreeing with me. I'm saying that even if we have Atuabo gas, we will continue to need gas as a country. And therefore, if Nigeria gas is not a 120, but it's giving us 80, 90, whatever, we should still keep taking it until we believe that we are too self-sufficient, we don't need Nigeria gas. Then that's it. I mean, Togo and Benin, they have agreement with us to give them a certain amount of electricity, okay, every day. We have a crisis, so we are not able to give them that amount that they are supposed to get. Let's say about 90 megawatts for purposes of this discussion. We are not able to do that. We are able to give you 40 megawatts. You need that electricity. Are you going to say that because you are not able to give me 90, take your 40 and my people will sleep in darkness? I don't think it's an argument to make. Under this, we are still developing. So under the conditions in which we are, I don't think we should, if we do that, it won't be in our interest.
So what other alternatives as far as power generation is concerned is the VRA looking into? Because this situation of gas, crude and
we have quite a number of projects, but based on your question, one of the things I need you to know is that we have considered using coal to generate electricity. And we are in discussions with the Chinese company that owns Asogli. We're in discussions with them to build about 800 megawatts of coal-powered or coal-fired generation plants. And that will give us about 80 megawatts. With coal, even the most expensive coal is cheaper than crude oil. So we can run on coal. And there's what we call clean coal. I think the major thing that has been about coal generation is the environmental impact. But there is a technology that controls that. So that's what we call clean coal. And that's what we are considering, about 800 megawatts. And sooner or later you see it.
Till when?
Very soon.
Very soon?
Yes.
Do we have a plant already?
No.
To be able to...
When you are working on such projects, you build the project in your head and on paper even before you start it. See, it will be very, very disappointing to go and build a project, invest a lot of money in it, only to find out that it will not serve your purpose. You have wasted money, time, resources, energy, but you have to do a good feasibility study to make sure that it will serve your purpose. Even where to locate it, how close it is to your source of coal, all that has to come into consideration. So I know that for the consumer and for yourself maybe, you want to see the end result. I am looking at what goes into producing that end result. Yes, we are at that stage where we are doing the feasibility. And once you have done all your feasibility, building the plant itself is just bringing the materials in and making sure you fix them into one another. But then you would have done a lot of work on the ground.
Recently, there have been talks about nuclear. Is this something the VRA could consider?
It's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say we shouldn't be talking about it, but what goes into a country being certified to go nuclear is a lot. It takes about 20 years. So it's good we have started the discussion now. But I can tell you that to get our base load and to get out of this situation, nuclear will not be the solution for now.
Sometimes I find it impossible for us to deal with the power production issue because we have a huge backlog already. So anytime we bring any plant on stream, it only deals with the backlog.
But do you know why? Do you know why we have the backlog? We have the backlog because demand is increasing almost 12% every year. You understand my point? So what it is that you are looking at your current situation. You have a deficit, 400, 500. You have a deficit that you need to plug. In fact, or if all our machines were working as normal, we wouldn't have a deficit, but we don't have a reserve. So the country demands about 2,000. We are able to produce just about 2,000. We need that reserve behind us so that in case of any forced outage, any emergency, you bring in that reserve. And that's what we all the projects I'm talking to you about. But really, it's not an impossible situation.
But it will take a very long while.
It will not take a very long while, but it will take some time. It requires some patience on the part of the consumer. Because you see, the fact that you need the power cannot force me to rush to do anything. The engineering work doesn't work like that. I mean, the fact that you need it, you can't rush people to do shoddy work. They will always take their time to do the right thing and make sure that once I put on the machine, it doesn't break anything. So that's where the challenge is. So project timelines must be followed. Okay? There are times you can, try and bring it forth a bit and all that. But if your funding also delays, it takes it back a bit.
So money is also a problem.
Money is key.
But for you, the biggest question for the consumer now is, I think at the end of the day, the consumer has direct relationship with you.
Yes,
and so all of the questions about when I'll get my lights, the stability of electricity supply, everything comes to you.
Yes, we understand.
Sometimes you tell us it is not load shedding, it's probably a plant somewhere that is gone. Have we experienced that situation?
The transformer issue.
Transformer issues with this one, because then it's difficult for us to now differentiate between when it's actually load shedding and when a problem has happened and we have to draw the attention of the ECG.
No, yes, I understand where you are coming from, but those ones are pockets, in the communities. It's not that wide or very wide coverage. Doesn't take care of those very wide coverage. Because the load shedding that is really affecting us now. Those pockets of outages, we deal with them. But I also agree that based on the timetable that we are dealing with, or the guide, you shouldn't go off more than 24 hours. You should be around 12 to 15 hours. Of course, because of the additional deficit we are faced with.
Well, was it the same thing that happened at Kolebu? Exactly what was the problem identified with the Kolebu situation?
Yes, in the Kolebu situation, we were asked to shed a second quantum, 550. After that, there were still some frequency challenges in the system. So, in order for the system to stabilize, or in order to stabilize the system, Gridco had to shut down the source of supply to Kolebu, and that's the whole bulk supply point at Malam.
Could we have avoided that, considering it's an essential service provider?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because it takes
it makes this very serious.
Yes, that's split seconds for them to take those decisions. The system will collapse. So they had to dump the Malam bulk supply point when we were hinted of what has happened. In fact, I have the information.
So if they hadn't done it, the alternative is that the whole country. So more hospitals will
quickly we transfer the load to Achimota bulk supply.
It's like we're in a very tight situation when it comes to
some few hours.
The load shedding issue.
No, we know. In planning
when should we expect a stable timetable?
No, in planning the load shedding, we isolated those vital installations, and that's why they don't go off, and that's why it's news when they go off. And so we know what we are doing. We have the industrial enclaves we don't touch, and so on and so forth. So to the best of our capabilities for now, we try to isolate them.
But the even more difficult part is the fact that Kolebu, you cannot tell Kolebu when to expect more.
No, they are not off now. No, we don't shut.
Kolebu doesn't go off.
These are isolated case. In fact, it's like a pure accident.
I agree.
In order to, yes.
It was a situation that happened. You were not looking forward to.
Yes.
My question is, considering the tight space we find ourselves now, it's still impossible for you to tell Kolebu to expect more of that.
No, I don't think that they are going to expect more.
You don't think so? Yes. You don't think so? So if it happens, we should come.
Oh yes, of course we will talk to Gitco. We told you that we didn't share the system off. They have to protect the entire system. They are looking after. They are in charge of the entire country, the system of the country. And any given time, they should make sure that supply and demand is at the same level, or we have an equilibrium in the system, or the system will collapse. That's what we are talking about. And so once in a while, they dump some places in order to get the balance for us, despite the fact that we are still doing the load shedding. And that's why customers been able to realize that we are not following.
You're meeting the PRC today?
Yes, we are going to.
What are you going to discuss?
Well, we are going to take a look at the entire system.
And why you are not heeding to the timetable?
Yes, definitely. And then also the generation companies will let us give us an outlook of what we have in the
So at the end of the day, we should expect a solid timetable?
No, at the end of the day, we should expect some firm up in terms of figures and the way forward.
But that meeting will also look at which plans are coming up,
that we get a better outlook in terms of the generation.
That's what will happen.
And I'm sure we'll bring our viewers up to date when it comes to what happens there. But the viewer will still want to know the timetable.
Yes.
Would it get any better anytime soon with regards to you heeding to it? As for the energy production side, we understand that until we are able to get the things that we need, including bringing the plants alive, the production deficit will remain. But heeding to the timetable.
No, but I am unable to heed. I'm unable to adhere to the timetable because of insufficient generation.
Because of the forced outages.
So your advice to consumers will be brace yourselves for more.
Not
the timetable is still a good guideline.
It's still a good guideline until we.
So we shouldn't throw it away.
No. Until we announce a revised version, I think that we should still.
Because Kamini, as we are saying, the timetable works for others. It's not
in some regions that
it works for some people and it doesn't work for others.
Yes, so you were mentioning some regions.
Some regions the demand. It's not a hard.
Which regions are we looking at?
We have smaller regions. We have the Volta, Central, Eastern regions, and so on. When some customers called from that and they said that, we are following the timetable in their area. What it means is that it's within Accra where they look this.
There's something I want both of you to address. I mean, with all of our deficits, and as a country, we still go around and put people on the national grid. I remember that. No, we put 4,500 rural dwellers, and the areas that were mentioned, these were areas that most likely would only need lights, or most likely wouldn't be able to afford the bills you come up with. But we managed to put them on the national grid. My question is, what happened to the solar system we were doing for them, rural electrification? Now we decided to put them on national grid. Not the traffic lights. I'm talking about these rural areas where we put them on the national grid.
Because accessibility is already existing. But let's get there.
If there is accessibility,
we have two schools of thought on this particular issue. Others are of the opinion that because we don't have sufficient generation, let alone extend power. So we are saying that in the next 1 year, 2 years, there should be no development at all in those areas. Because electricity,
we were giving them solar panels.
No,
we started that. My point is, why couldn't we do that? Because we already have a deficit on the national grid. We decided to put these on the national grid. And you come and tell us that we are not paying electricity bills.
Is electricity useful to you, Kemini?
It is.
So if I put that same question to the person living in the village, is it useful to you? They'll say yes. Do they have the right to electricity? Yes, as you do.
My thing is, we could have found other ways of giving that community having to overburden the national grid.
You're making a good point.
We started a fantastic rural electrification process.
We are talking about.
I understand. You have a point. You have a point, but it's still investment.
50 to 60 kilometers.
So would you do that investment into expanding the grid, or you want to do that only for the small communities?
We haven't expanded the grid, have we?
No, that's what we're doing. I mean, all the projects we are doing are costing money. Or is it because you haven't seen it?
It hasn't come alive. It hasn't come alive.
Projects don't materialize overnight. And it's important that even if you give me all the money I need in the world,
and we had a backlog. Don't forget, we have a backlog. We decided to bring 4,500 people onto the national grid. Sam and William, really.
What you need to understand. No, what you need to understand that if these people need only light and fun, they don't consume that much. That's what you should also need to understand.
It doesn't change the fact that it will still put some. It will still put some weight on the national grid.
The weight is coming from you and me, who are using 3D presenters.
Anyway.
The whole of Bronx have food.
Okay.
Quickly though, 30 seconds. We have to go
have
live
a fridge
now.
for baby food.
I don't.
The whole of Bronx have food. The whole of Bronx have